How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Shifting Lanes. My name is Hanson. Thank you so much for tuning in. And for this video, I want to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the 2018 Nissan Kicks. Now, when it comes to the Nissan Kicks, there's three trims. There's the S, the SV, and the SR. I'm sitting in the SR trim. This is the top of the line Nissan Kicks. It dials in at just a little over $23,000, but at the base trim, you could buy it for $18,290. What that means is that is the second cheapest subcompact crossover that you could buy today. The cheapest crossover, of course, is the Kia Soul. It's been that way for a couple of years now, and that starts at $16,490. But the difference with that is that that has a manual transmission. So if you can't row your own gears, then the Nissan Kicks is still the second cheapest crossover, but only by over a couple $100. So with the Nissan Kicks SR, you do get a lot more amenities. There's a lot more features in here, and I'll talk more about that a little bit later. But let's get right down to it. Let's start talking about the good of the Nissan Kicks. All right, the first good is, I've already mentioned, is the affordability aspect of this car. Again, this is the second cheapest crossover, but you get so many features packed in here. But what's even better is that you also get automatic emergency braking and forward collision warning. Not a lot of cheap cars could really give you that. The next good thing I like about this car is the mileage. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm really tired of those really old people telling me about how they could get 40 miles to the gallon in their old Civics. Yeah, of course, those Civics weigh nothing. There's no safety features. It's basically just an engine and four wheels and some steel around the seats. That's it. Of course you could get really good mileage because you're carrying nothing. Present day cars just have to carry so many more safety features and so much more tech to stay competitive. But with this car and a lot of other subcompact crossovers that's of this size and of this engine size, you get really awesome mileage. This one gets 31 city and 36 highway. Now, besides the mileage, what I also like about this car is all of the feature sets and amenities that you get at this price point. Let's start talking about this 7-inch touchscreen because I really like this unit. Now, I'm wearing polarized glasses and I don't see any sort of like glare or weird rainbow effects across the screen. It's nice and clear, and that is really nice. Now, if you step up to the SV trim, this touchscreen gets even better because not that they change any hardware or anything like that, but it comes included with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I don't know about you, but I despise almost all car infotainment systems because they're clunky to use, they look ugly, they just don't have a good design, and it's not just as intuitive to use. Now, almost all of us have smartphones now, so we're just so much more used to the Apple iOS or the Android interface. So why not use that in our cars? So anytime there's an Apple CarPlay or Android Auto offered in any car infotainment system, that's just a big plus to me because I could use that instead of the normal infotainment, which is, again, it's ugly, it's clunky. I prefer to use something that I'm more comfortable with. Now, if you step up to the SR trim, which is what I'm sitting in, this touchscreen gets even better yet because it comes equipped with the Nissan Around View system. Now, that is a system that's only found in the more premium models of any Nissan cars. Now, the Nissan Around View, if you're not familiar with that, that's a system of 4 cameras placed around the car, one underneath each side view mirror, one in the front bumper, and one, in this case, on the hatch. So that gives you a 360-degree view by stitching images from all 4 cameras. Now, that is a really nice feature because anytime you're parking, anytime you engage the reverse gear, it displays the 360-degree view on this 7-inch touchscreen, again, which is very clear, and you can see all around you. Again, that is a very premium feature that's found in this relatively budget car. And if you're going slow speeds, you could hit this camera button that's beside the 7-inch touchscreen unit, and you could see the camera in front of you. So if you're pulling into a spot, say against a parking garage wall, you could hit that button and just kind of inch forward and make sure that you're not hitting the wall in front of you. Now that I've talked about the good, let's start talking about the bad. And there's a good amount of bad things in this car, and that's really a function of the price point. You're gonna get what you paid for. And for Nissan to make a car that's so competitively priced, you're gonna have to lose out on some features. And let's just first start with the least annoying and go towards the most annoying bad about these cars. The first one is this armrest. I despise this armrest. It is located in such a weird spot. I don't know why they didn't just go with a normal armrest that's stationed permanently between the front seats. This is located a little too high. I'm 5'8". I'm average height, and I feel like anytime I just kind of let my arm down, I'm just hitting my funny bone at all times. The next thing I don't like about this car is the rear seats. The front seats, perfect. Zero gravity seats, love Nissan seats. But the back seat, it's like sitting on a park bench. It's uncomfortable, it's very flat, there's no contouring on it. Not a fan of the rear seats. The other thing I don't like about this car is the rear brakes. It uses drum brakes. So that means that your stopping power isn't going to be as good as something with a disc brake. This only has disc brakes in the front. Most crossovers have four-wheel disc brakes. You are sacrificing braking performance. Then again, this car only weighs 2,649 pounds. So that is super light. Again, that explains why the mileage is so good. Along the lines of the brakes, what I don't like about the rear end is the torsion beam suspension. Again, most cars have multi-link rear suspension. It produces better handling, but with this, it's just a solid rear beam. So anytime you go over bumps, you kind of feel it more. It's more pronounced. It's not as comfortable, and I'm pretty sure it sacrifices handling. But then again, you're not taking this car to the track. I wouldn't even recommend driving these cars on back roads in a spirited fashion just because it isn't that fun to drive. So if you're just using this for everyday driving, which is what 99.9999% of Nissan Kicks buyers do, is just take this and commute from A to B, this is perfect for that. But when you're driving more spiritedly, this car is going to feel kind of awful. It's not very communicative. The steering is like, it's almost like steering a kite. You just pull it this way and you hope that it turns this way. Now, of course, I'm exaggerating, but yeah, there is no communication between the steering wheel and the road. But again, for your commuting needs, it's just okay. But there is a benefit to the whole torsion beam suspension because that really simplifies the rear suspension geometry. It really makes everything cheap to manufacture, which is the reason why this vehicle is so cost effective, is because all the elements are simplified. This is also the reason why Nissan has been able to lower the rear cargo space, because the suspension takes up a lot less space. So Nissan has been able to make more room in the back, which is a big plus. The other bad thing I don't like about this car is the styling. Now, this is a personal preference, so feel free to tell me that I'm wrong, but I don't like the way this car looks. Now, crossovers in general aren't good looking cars. They're tall, they don't look athletic, they just look kind of clumsy. And I feel like the Nissan Kicks sort of accentuates the bad parts of an SUV. Now, Nissan also makes the Rogue, and they make the Rogue Sport, and I consider those SUVs fairly good looking vehicles. But with the Nissan Kicks, it looks like a mini Pathfinder, which is Nissan's full-size SUV. Now, the color schemes that's offered with the Nissan Kicks kind of solves some of those problems, and I personally like the color scheme of the car that I'm driving in right now. This orange premium paint looks awesome when in contrast with the black floating roof. I just really like the look. It sort of hides how tall this car looks. And the last bad thing I have to say about this car is, you guessed it, it's the drivetrain. This thing is just super slow. Again, it's super slow because Nissan prioritized mileage over performance in this car. You have to have great mileage to stay competitive, and as a result, the engine and drivetrain really suffers. This has a 1.6 liter 125 horsepower engine that is super weak, and it's attached to this CVT, which I just truly despise. Now, the Nissan Altima, again, I just drove that. If you're interested to see that review, it's linked up here. But I actually didn't mind that CVT at all, because that was actually attached to a functional engine. This one is just begging for more torque. This engine almost makes the gas pedal kind of useless because I can press it as much as I want, but it's not going to change the acceleration level that I get. Again, pretty sad, but as a result, it produces great gas mileage. So if that's important for you, then this bad doesn't really matter at all. And this CVT even comes with a sport mode that comes in the form of this minus button that you can't even see, and if you have this stupid armrest down, you're not even aware that that's there. But that's okay, because that sport button is purely decorative. It doesn't do anything. Actually, it does change the gear ratio a little bit, but this car is so underpowered that you can't tell the difference between normal mode and sport mode. So just leave that button alone. It's purely there just for, I don't know why that's there. And if you think about shuttling your friends around in this car, the story gets even worse, because that's even more weight to shuttle around, and this car's weaknesses just gets amplified that much more. So I've talked about the good, I've talked about the bad, let's talk about the ugly of the Nissan Kicks. The ugly is that this is a hollow shell of its former self, the Nissan Juke. The Nissan Juke was sold in the United States between 2010 and 2017, and that car had a lot of pep and it had a lot of character. It had a lot of pep because it had a 188 horsepower, 1.6 liter turbo engine. It even came with an available manual transmission, and if you also wanted it, it came with a all-wheel drive system. It also had a lot of character because, again, it looked weird that it had a cult following. It didn't look like anything else on the road. It looked special. And it had so much character that Nissan decided to make a limited production version of it called the Juke R. And the Juke R had Nissan GTR hardware in it. So it had the 545 horsepower twin-turbo V6 engine, and also had Nissan GTR's all-wheel drive system. So that's never going to happen ever again, especially not with the Kicks. The Nissan Kicks is basically a watered-down version of the Nissan Juke. It doesn't even have an all-wheel drive system available. This is just a watered-down, declawed, less interesting version of the Juke, and it's really disappointing to think about that. But Nissan did that for a reason. They did that to basically sell more cars. They made the Juke less interesting to sell more cars so that they could lower the price point of this car even more. And again, I've said a lot of bad things and I've said some ugly things about this car, but really that's a byproduct of what makes this car so good. Is the, again, like I mentioned in the first part of this video, is the affordability aspect of this car. This car is a great car to own just because it's so low cost. It has more than enough space for maybe 3 or maybe 4 of your friends. It has great mileage. This has Apple CarPlay, it has Android Auto, it has a backup camera system, and in this SR trim it has the Nissan Around View system, which is great for parking and just like going in low speeds, making sure that you don't hit anything. This car has everything that you need, and it's brilliant. With that said, I'm going to end the video right there. What did you think about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the 2018 Nissan Kicks? Do you agree? Do you disagree with me? Please let me know in the comments below. If you found this video somewhat helpful or entertaining, please give it a like, give it a subscribe down below. Check out our Patreon page. If you want to become a supporter of this channel, that is the best way of supporting us. And also, if you're interested in buying our shirts, our Teespring account is linked down below the video. So, with that said, I want to thank you so much for your attention and watching till the very end. Again, my name is Hanson, and I will see you next time.